There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
Mr. Fitzgerald Fortune, theater critic and cynic at large, on his way to a birthday party. If he knew what is in store for him, he probably wouldn't go. Because before this evening is over, that cranky old piano is going to play those piano roll blues with some effects that could happen only in the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo.
And I'm your co-host, 80s E.
80s E, here we are tonight on election night.
2024.
2024.
It's a election night explosion.
And although we don't know when this will be released, since we have like 4 or 5 in the can that Eric has to edit, this might be the next election before it comes out. So, but Eric,
behind a little bit.
Before we get started with this episode, I do have a question for you.
All right.
Eric, did you ever play any musical instruments besides the recorder that we all took in like 3rd or 4th grade and the bell choir?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I played the piano. I took a few piano lessons when I was, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, maybe somewhere in there.
Exactly, I did too. I had the one concert. Who was your teacher? Do you remember? Was it the Diane Brown or whatever?
Wow, you remember her name? I think that was her.
Yeah,
I think it was her.
Yeah, and I remember the only thing I really remember about taking piano lessons was we had that concert recital, and I was dressed like a milkman, all white with a red bow tie. I think my mom has a picture of me still. But did you ever play any like band instruments or anything?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever want to?
Yeah, I kind of always had.
Do you remember when they used to come to the school and they'd bring all the instruments in there and you go, oh wow, I'd like to play that or that?
Probably the saxophone, to answer your question. Probably the saxophone would have been something that a smooth jazz saxophone was pretty cool.
I always wanted to play the trumpet. I think that would have been cool too.
Yeah.
But, well, Eric, it's been a while, so why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Yeah, hopefully I'm not too rusty with this. This episode entitled A Piano in the House. This is the Twilight Zone season number 3, episode number 22. It comes in at an IMDb rating of 7.5. We'll see where we end up. It might be like this election might start really high and end really low. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's a toss-up, right? We'll see what happens. So this particular episode, got my notes out of order here, but this particular episode premiered, or original air date for the episode was February the 16th, 1962, and that brings us to our favorite segment in the episode. The segment that we like to call On This Day in History. All right, we've joined Heaven's Gates, and now we're going to look at February the 16th, 1962 is when this episode aired, and we're going to look at, some on this day in history. We're going to look at some things that happened historically. We're going to mix in a little sports, a little TV and film, and then I've even got a little birthdays mixed in here. So some famous birthdays. So let's go all the way back to 1938 on February the 16th. And a little movie. Jimbo, I don't know if you guys, I don't think you've covered it, but I think you have it saved on your Fandango. It's a little movie in 1938 called Bringing Up Baby. It was a film directed by Howard Hawks, and it starred Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. It was released on February 16th, 1938. So there's a little TV and film. Continuing in that vein, 1948, on February the 16th, we have the first newsreel telecast. So that was released by 20th Century Fox Movie Tone movie Tone News, and it was shown on NBC, not MTV. MTV wasn't around for many decades later. So a newsreel telecast would be like, those old newsreels that they had in like World War II, and they would show like before a feature presentation of a movie or whatever. Those were called newsreel telecasts. February the 16th, 1950, we have the longest running primetime game show. Its inaugural season on February the 16th, 1950. Jimbo, you want to take a guess at what that game show would have been? 1950?
Is it still going on?
No, I don't believe it's.
Let's go with 19. You say 1950?
Yes. Actually, they may have revived it in the early 2000s. I'm not exactly sure, but
I'll go with The Gong Show.
The Gong, that would have been a good guess. But in actuality, it's What's My Line? It began in 1950 on CBS.
And I think that's Whose Line Is It Anyway you're thinking of, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if that's two different game shows then.
Well, yeah. What's My Line or Whose Line Is It Anyway is not even the same name.
Right, but I thought maybe it was revived under a different name. I don't know. I'm not familiar with either one, but according to this...
You don't remember Whose Line Is It Anyway with Drew Carey and Wayne Brady and all
I
that?
am familiar with that, yeah. So, 1950. Let's skip ahead a few years, about 9 years. And February 16th, 1959, Fidel Castro becomes the 16th Prime Minister of Cuba after overthrowing Fulgencio Batista. So, 1959. 1963, North Carolina forward Billy Cunningham grabs 27 rebounds for a record high in a game versus Clemson. And that was February 16, 1963. 1964, 1 year later, the famous Beatles make their second appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, live from the Dualville Hotel in Miami, Florida. I'm not pronouncing that right, probably.
You like the Beatles, Eric?
Oh, yeah. Love the Beatles. This broadcast is important to note. It drew about 70 million viewers, and this was their second appearance in 1964. And then finally, on the historical part, and then we'll move on to the birthdays. February the 16th, there's another sports trivia. February 16th, 1972, Wilt Chamberlain of the Los Angeles Lakers becomes the first player in NBA history to reach the career mark of 30,000 points. He did it in a loss, a 110-109 loss to the Phoenix Suns. So 1972, Wilt Chamberlain the first to 30,000 points. Who's better, Wilt Chamberlain or LeBron James?
Michael Jordan.
Yeah. That should be the answer to any of the NBA questions. All right, birthdays. This lady was born February the 16th, 1921. Her name is Vera Ellen. She was an American actress, and she was most notably known for the movie White Christmas. She played Judy Haynes, one of the sisters. And she was born in Norwood, Ohio in 1921. Another famous birthday, February 16th, 1935, one Sonny Bono, American musician, vocalist, famous for the Sonny and Cher
I Got You, Babe
show. I Got You, Babe. He was a songwriter. He also was an actor. He was a politician. He did it all. And he was born in Detroit, Michigan, February 16th, 1935. And then February 16th, let's see what year, 1989, we have Elizabeth Olsen, younger sibling of the Olsen twins. She was also an actress and been in Avenger films.
She's Wanda.
Yeah,
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, and she was born in Los Angeles, California in 1989. And then finally, with the last famous birthday, February 16, 1959, John McEnroe. He's an American tennis player. Won many U.S. Opens, 79, 80, 81, 80, on and on we could go. He won Wimbledon titles, Grand Slams, Davis Cups. He was born in Wiesbaden, Germany. So he was actually born in Germany in 1959. All right, moving on to our episode. This will conclude our On This Day in History. let's get a few little facts about this episode in front of us. This is Season 3, Episode 22, as I think I mentioned before. The episode's directed by David Green, and I believe this is his solo performance as director. I don't think David Green made any other appearances in the Twilight Zone as a director, to my knowledge, as far as I can tell. And this episode was written by Earl Hamner Jr. This is the second episode in his stint of, I think, 8 or 9 episodes that he wrote. We did The Hunt several episodes ago. I can't remember now, but that was the first episode that he wrote, was The Hunt. This was the second. The total production cost for this episode comes in around $40,833, so kind of low, really. I think our benchmark's usually around $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
So they were reasonably, budget friendly with this episode. Dates of rehearsal: October 4th and 5th. 2 days of rehearsal, October 4th and 5th of 1961. So that would have been the prior year, obviously. And then 3 dates of filming: October 6, 9, and 10 of 1961. Jimbo, tell us about our star-studded cast for this episode.
Well, there's not really too many. The cast list not very long. Even though there was more people in the episode, they didn't even list them. So I'm just going to give the top ones that they actually credited. So first off, we have the main character, Barry Morris. He's playing Fitzgerald Fortune. He does a really good job. He looks creepy, but he was in a movie called The Changeling. Eric, you ever seen The Changeling?
No, I don't think I have.
It's really good, and you check it out.
Okay.
Then you had Eric's favorite of this episode, Joan Hackett. She played Esther Fortune, who was Fitzgerald Fortune's wife. You had...
much younger wife.
Yeah. And then you had Don Durant. He played Gregory Walker. You come to find out in this episode that he may be a little sweet on Esther.
Yeah.
Then you have Muriel Landers. She played Marge Moore, and I believe this is the heavier set lady that likes to dance.
Which I thought she did a really good job.
Really good job. She maybe one of the best ones of the episode, but she was in Dr. Dolittle in the movie in 1967. And Joan Hackett and Don Durant also had a bunch of like westerns and TV shows. I didn't want to name them all. So you also had Philip Coolidge. He played Throckmorton. He was in a movie you may have seen, Eric, North by Northwest, the great Alfred Hitchcock, and he was also in the thriller The Tingler. And then we have Mr. Cyril Delevante. He played Marvin the Butler. If you've listened to us long enough, this guy's been in probably 3 or 4 episodes off the top of the cuff.
Veteran of the Twilight Zone.
Veteran, yes. He was in movies Soylent Green. He was in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Do you remember that, Eric? Bed Knobs and Broomsticks? Angela Lansbury.
I think that
Disney
came
movie.
up the first time, Delevante, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
And then last but not least, we do have the late, great Rod Serling, the narrator and the self-host of The Twilight Zone.
All right. Let's talk about a plot for this episode. It's a theater critic, Fitzgerald Fortune, is looking to buy a different sort of gift for his wife's birthday. In a curio shop, he buys an old player piano. It's delivered to his home, and when he starts it up, it has a strange effect on his manservant. I don't know why they call him a manservant in this plot summary, but what would Butler maybe?
Yeah, that's what he's known as, Marvin the Butler.
Yeah, Marvin the Butler. So it has a strange effect on his manservant, and a normally dour man who breaks into mirthful laughter. When he plays another song, this time for a guest, the man breaks down and admits his love with Fortune's wife Esther. He decides to have fun with his party guests that evening, but Esther decides to turn the tables on him. So we'll start out in Act 1. Act 1 is, I just want to mention early off too, there are some great cinematography shots
especially in the opening scene.
Yeah, as he's walking through the curio shop, there's one in particular where I'll just make a notation.
You talk about the mirror?
Yeah, the mirror was really cool. The reflection of the shop owner Because he's called Gerald, he's called Fortune, he's called by different names throughout the episode, but he's our main character, and he enters and he can't find the shopkeeper, right? He's calling for him several times, and it's interesting to note too, as this plays in with the key theme. One of the things that stuck out to me in this early part of the episode were as the shopkeeper's on the ladder dusting or doing some work. Did you catch the two masks that he was dusting?
Well,
one was happy and one was sad.
Something else I was going to say is I was trying to look, and I couldn't find any verification of this, if any of those props in the curio shop had been used in any of the other Twilight Zones that we've covered. Because I was maybe thinking about seeing what's the stupid devil box thing you like, the wishing, the fortune teller machine, or any of the masks that we've seen. I couldn't spot anything, but I'd be curious to see later on in future Twilight Zone episodes if any of those masks come up to play later.
Yeah, that would be interesting. The shopkeeper, I'm trying to look up his name now. I forget his name. Is he listed in the...
Is it Throckmorton? Is it Philip Coolidge, I think, maybe? Or is he the...
I don't know. So, nevertheless, it's not important, but he's on a ladder and he's dusting, and he's really short and curt with... by the way, this is another thing that stuck out too, was the dialogue was it's really well written as well. As far as just this man's place in life, Gerald, his place in life, we meet him and we come to find out that he's what was he, a player? He wasn't a player, he was a critic, a playwright critic or whatever. And so has a higher education, he's very smart, and so the dialogue synced up really well. So he has an exchange with the shopkeeper. He explains that he wants to buy his wife a birthday present, and she's basically taken up piano. She wants to learn how to play the piano. And this theater critic, you find out he takes pleasure in cruelty to his fellow man. And he wants to buy a self-playing piano. Does he say at first that he wants a piano specifically? I think he did. He wasn't looking for... He wanted a piano specifically for his wife. So,
and the shopkeeper's like, well, I got a self-playing one, but I don't even know if it works.
Right. Which that thing was in really good shape for being old and not,
It reminds me of one of those pianos you used to see in the old westerns. They go into the bar saloon and the guy's sitting there and then it's on that playing. Yeah.
So we find out also in this early exchange that his wife is much younger than he is. She's only 26. And I would say Fitzgerald's probably in his late 40s, early 50s maybe. That's probably what I would guess him to be age-wise. So... And again, in these opening scenes, there are clues of this piano's magical effects on people, because the shopkeeper turns from a dour, I forget what name he calls him. He calls him a specific, I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't. He basically calls him a person who hates people. I can't think of the word, but he used a big $2 word to describe him that way. Again, that just goes back to the excellence of the writing. But another clue, again, we talked about is the masks. That was the junk store shopkeeper. He's dusting those on the ladder. We kind of get an idea of kind of where the episode's going, and some of the magical effects of the playing of the piano is that this curmudgeon of a shopkeeper, all of a sudden he hears the song "I'm in the Mood for Love," I think is the song that plays on the piano, and they're on these big long scrolls, right, and they're loaded into the player piano. And all of a sudden he's just the nicest guy in the world. He asks about Fitzgerald's relationship with his wife, and he's like, I'm sure you're going to take out your wonderful wife for her birthday, and you're going to have a magical time, all while this song is playing. And so as Fortune exits the store, we have the introduction, and the camera sort of sweeps as Fortune walks out the front door, and we sweep or pans across a rod, and he's sitting in the storefront window, kind of behind a counter or a desk, and he delivers his opening narration. And then in Act 2 is primarily in the apartment, if you will. I think the rest of the episode actually is shot inside of the apartment of Fitzgerald. And I believe it's the same set as they used in The Mirror. About the
Cuban...
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the exact same set. I believe I read somewhere that that's one that's reused. Believing that everyone has two faces, one we wear and the other we keep hidden, Fortune takes advantage of his butler and later the guests that are attending his wife's birthday party. So he's going to throw this big birthday party. But before he does that, he... well, let me just point out one thing. So arrangements were made, let me back up to the first scene, that the piano, Fortune paid $200 for it and that it was to be delivered. Well, the piano now, as he enters his apartment, is nicely positioned in the corner, and there's like this mask. Did you notice that thing affixed to the mast on the upright of the piano? It's like a face, like a mask thing. So that it has, again, just reinforcing that like special powers that the piano has to turn people. And Fitzgerald was like one of the first people to... He really uses the piano. I'm getting ahead of myself, but he really uses the piano as a weapon. He finds people's weaknesses. He's like he's the first to discover basically the piano's powers.
Well, would you use it if you could? I
don't know. I would hope not, but not for how cruel he is. And we realize here in these opening scenes of the apartment, the cruelty that he has, not only for his wife, but the other people that are going to be attending the party. He's very condescending toward his wife, basically implying that she has no musical talent while demanding an enthusiastic thank you for his birthday gift, right? He's like, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on a real piano only to find out that you're a talentless hack, basically. Yeah. I'm paraphrasing. So... And that was a good piece of acting, too, by Esther, like, when he's basically demanding that she thank him for the piano. She's just like, okay, thanks. I get, like, she looks down at the ground and, like, you can tell that he's basically bullied her, their whole relationship. And Marvin the butler, he's the second victim, if you will, of the piano. It says, this is taken straight from the dialogue. Marvin the butler goes from lugubrious, looking or sounding sad and dismal, to a giddy, light-hearted man under the spell of the piano. He turned his frown literally upside down. So Marvin the butler, he's just downtrodden, sour-looking butler. Never smiles. But when Fortune... I forget what song he plays. It's in my trivia. He plays the song, and all of a sudden, the butler is... he's...
happy, jovial.
Yeah, exactly. He's dancing, flipping, doing twirls and, like, flipping down onto the couch. So Gerald puts another music roll on as the song begins to play. The truth about Esther's feelings toward him pour out. So Esther is like the third target of Gerald. And as she is pouring out what she really feels about him, she says, I was a stupid child when I married you. I thought you were a great man, but you aren't. You're just a sadistic fiend. You take pleasure in humiliating me in front of your clever friends.
And now I have a question. Did the scrolls have something written on the outside or some sort of marking to decide what would be played and who it would target?
I couldn't tell that.
Because what I was saying is if he put that one, the first one in for the butler,
Right.
Why didn't she interact too? You know what I mean? Or does he have to say like...
That was unclear. Like,
right.
Like, I think the particular song only affects the person that he is targeting. Everyone else is unaffected, right? Because Esther, when he played the first song, she was unaffected.
Right.
So I'm guessing that the writer
because
wanted whatever opposite characteristic that they were concealing, right? So he's sad.
But what I'm saying is the only reason I say that it's confusing is because at the last person that is going to be the subject of this magic, if you will, the lady changes the sheet music.
Oh, remember, when Esther changes
remember when he says, "Put this in, we're going to call out the devil," or whatever. And she sets it back on the shelf, and she pulls a different one off.
Yeah, so that was Esther turning the tables on him.
That's what I'm saying. So is it whoever puts the paper in the machine gets to choose the target?
Yeah, I mean,
is that what I draw from this?
I would say that's probably true. So she must have caught on because, he gave her one roll to put in, but she put in something else. So she must have figured out the... I'm guessing this is like... It is kind of unclear as you're watching. It's a little disjointed, but whatever that person is concealing, right? Because that was like the main theme of the Fortune basically says something to the effect of like, people have two sides. And he's, I'm by using this piano as a weapon, I'm going to pull out what they're really thinking, what they're trying to conceal. And I think the Esther catches on to that at the end and then turns it on, and we're getting ahead of ourselves. She turns it on Fitzgerald himself. So, but Fitzgerald Fortune, he congratulates Esther on her performance after it comes, everything comes pouring out when she hears her song. And then he says they're off. They're going to have a really interesting evening. So in Act 3, we're still in the apartment, but all of the party guests start to come in. And one young man who comes in early, his name's Greg, and he reveals his affections for Fortune's wife, Esther. And then a heavy-set woman imagines herself as a little girl, a little girl that she never was. And then the never-smiling servant laughs and cheers out of contempt. We already covered him, the butler. And then Esther, we talked about this a little bit, she switches the music sheets to throw the same ploy onto her husband, who reveals at the end that he's afraid of the dark. And I'm just summarizing this last scene here. And then Fortune is nothing more than a frightened boy who hurts others because he envies those who embrace the world in ways that he doesn't. He covets the talents of other playwrights, hurting them in his reviews. And after having a brief taste of his own medicine, Mr. Fitzgerald Fortune loses the respect of his friends and his wife. So let's back up and talk about Greg. Greg's like this handsome, strapping, young...
He's like me.
Yeah, it's exactly like you. Right, okay. Yeah, so Greg is, I think he's a playwright also, because, Fortune makes a comment at the end about giving him negative reviews when he had really good plays.
Yeah, well, he should have gave him really good ones.
So, but he's in love with Esther. He's a tender-hearted kind of guy, but, he hides his mask of, he shows respect towards Fitzgerald. And I guess apparently they met on some trip, like she went away on a vacation and they bumped into each other. And all of this comes out during the playing of the piano. And then the heavy set lady, what's her name, Marge?
Yeah.
She wants to be a dancer. She's very self-deprecating, right? She's always trying to deflect. She's really self-conscious about her weight. And so when her song plays, and again, I'll try to find these in my trivia notes, what songs were actually played. She's like, I'm a butterfly, right? And,
it's kind of weird in a way.
Yeah, but she goes back to childhood and says my name's not Marge, it's Tina or something like that. Or I forget. She even changes her name. and it sort of projects herself to be what she envisions herself to be during her song. And here she is coming in the door. She's very, I don't know how to describe her. She's very outgoing.
Was she dating?
I don't know. I think
Greg. Is that what you got from that?
Yeah.
Because she's like, haven't heard from you in a while, or talked or whatever.
Right, and she says, well, I better not find out who this other woman is, or I'm gonna scratch her eyes out or something like that. Yeah. So I thought she did a great job, acting wise. I thought I thought it was a well acted episode. It just was a little bit disjointed in the effect of the music. It was unclear to me, at least on first viewing the episode, why is this having, what you said, why is this having an effect on some people and not other people? And so you have to go back and kind of rewatch it to see that each song is tailor-made to the person that they're trying to target.
Well, then I have another question, because that brings up, remember I said whoever fed the sheet music in. Mm-hmm. At the beginning, did the shop owner put the music in himself?
I think he did. And then so that kills that TZ theory.
Right, so never mind.
Yeah, so the continuity kind of issue with the writing might have been a little bit, suspect, I guess. But the acting overall, I thought it was pretty well done. So now there's this big party of people, and Fitzgerald is holding court, and he's targeting his people, and we've already covered sort of in broad strokes each person that sort of got targeted. Greg and Marge, and then was there
and Esther, his wife,
and Esther, obviously his wife,
and the shopkeeper.
Yep.
And now he wants to find out who the devil is.
Yeah, and so it turned on Fortune himself. Esther turns it on him, and it's actually a lullaby that's played, and then he basically is transported back to being afraid, scared little boy who is afraid of the dark, who always feels lesser than others. So that's why he attacks people personally. He tries to put them down and belittle them, and he wants dominance over them, because in reality he has an inferiority complex really about others, and in order to make himself feel better, he has to put down other people. Thus the whole piano incident and targeting all the people in the party, and that's kind of where we land with the episode. Anything else that you wanted to throw in? Anything?
Well, no, just when they all start leaving, this is one thing I noticed that I didn't see any notes. When they all start leaving, if you watch the lampshade, they hit it. Somebody hits the lampshade and it starts shaking like it's about to fall over. I don't know if that's like a goof. It's just something I noticed at the end of the episode. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Marge, when we're looking at this scene, for being a heavier woman, she's pretty light on her feet when she's doing those twirls.
Oh, yeah. She did a great job.
I don't know if she was trained in the dance and theater art, but she did a really good job overall acting. Let's get on to some trivia notes. Do you have any trivia? No,
nothing.
You got nothing.
Couldn't find anything.
There wasn't a whole lot here. I only have a few points, and I'm just going to hit those highlighters. The high. Let me find. So when Marge arrives at the party, Fitzgerald comments on her weight, to which he replies, "I've been on more diets than Arcuro
I hear you,
has horses." Eddie Arcuro was a Hall of Fame jockey who won more classic races than any other jockey in history, and the only jockey to win the U.S. Triple Crown twice. Arcuro retired from racing in 1962, the year that this teleplay first aired. So that was an inside joke about a horse jockey. On the front of the piano face, we talked about this maybe briefly, the face that's on the mast of the piano, it's called a New Zealand Maori Tiki. Maori, Maori Tiki. So that's what that is. The musician responsible for scoring this episode, and this is really the crux of the episode, the musician responsible for scoring the episode chose the right pieces to represent each of the characters who are subjected to reveal the emotion they hide from the outside world and themselves. So there's the paradigm, right? this is what the emotion that they're trying to hide from the world and themselves. So every time the player piano is used, the emotions of the listener reflect whatever song is playing. When the grouchy shopkeeper listens to I'm in the Mood for Love, he briefly becomes sentimental and generous. When Marvin, the fortune sour butler, he hears Smiles, that was the title of his song, he begins smiling and admits that he's more lighthearted than he lets on. When the usually cool-headed Esther listens to Sabre Dance, a musical number where ballet dancers dance with swords, she goes on a rant about how unhappy and frustrated she is with her uncaring husband. When the mild-mannered playwright Greg hears the foolish things remind me of you, he reveals that he's deeply in love with Esther and that they had a tryst. When an enthusiastic and self-deprecating party guest, Marge, listens to Claire de Lune, she reveals her deepest and most heartfelt dreams. Finally, when Jerry hears Lullaby, see, they call him Jerry. Gerald, it's
Fitzgerald.
Fortune. Fitzgerald, so Jerry would be short
Gerald
for Fitzgerald.
And then Jerry, yeah.
So when Jerry hears Lullaby, he reveals his lack of emotion and maturity and acts in a childlike manner. So here's I just thought of another question. So according to that paradigm, Marvin is really happy inside, but he puts on a dour, sour face
just
as a butler to be around. I mean,
but because he tells his boss, he's like, I'm always happy on the inside or whatever. I just don't show it.
I don't know if I've ever met one person in my life that's really been happy and joyful on the inside, but then they hit it from the. I don't know. That's kind of odd, but all right. For the sake of the story, I guess it has to work. Let's talk about one trivia about Joan Hackett here. She says, it's not hard to be an actress, Joan Hackett commented in an interview for TV Guide. It's not even hard to be a good one if you care about it and you try. The hard part is persuading yourself that things you do are of value. Hackett, just a little side note, she was born in New York's Harlem district, the second child of an Italian mother and an Irish father.
And I believe she died at the only
really young.
49 from cancer. That was sad. I was reading about.
She apparently, I guess a lot of other actors found her kind of difficult to work with too. I guess she was like really a perfectionist. Just digging in a little bit about her life, and I guess it prevented her from getting other roles because a lot of actors didn't want to work with her because she was such a perfectionist. There's one goof here. Let me throw that in. There was a blooper. When I'm in the Mood for Love finishes playing in the junk shop, an observant television audience can catch the lyrics to These Foolish Things on the piano. So I guess that wasn't even the right song that was loaded in. So some sharp watchers caught that little goof. Anything else that you have? Questions, observations? What's your overall rating?
I don't think I really cared for this episode.
Yeah.
I get what they were trying to do with everybody has two faces, especially at the beginning, showing the two masks and then playing the song and changing their mood, if you will.
Yeah.
Just an okay episode in my eyes. I think Marvin did a really good job, and I think Fitzgerald, he's pretty creepy. I think he does a really well job in this too.
Yeah, I think he was a pretty highly trained theater actor.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it was missing something, maybe explaining a little bit the lore of the piano. And I like piano music. I mean, my wife's been playing the piano since she was 3 years old, so yeah. She's pretty good. So I do like piano music, but to me, if I'm going to rate this out of a 10, let it come in at a 6 for me. So, Eric?
Yeah, I'm probably going to ring in maybe a little better. I thought the acting was good. I thought that it was... Obviously, the musical score was good. Even some of the cinematography was really good, especially in the first scene, and how that was like a wide moving shot with the mirror and all that. So, I mean, it gets some points there, but not to, to be very critical of Hamner, but it just felt like the story was a little bit disjointed. It just, like, it was, the puzzle pieces didn't fit together really well, and it took, I'm slow anyway, but like, it took me a while to figure out the corresponding paradigm with those songs and how the piano was used as a target specifically to bring out things that wasn't super evident in the first scene, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I just missed it, but so yeah, I'd probably bring it in about 6.5. It's not a 7.5 as IMDb, in my opinion. I just think there was a lot left there on the table as far as writing. It was pretty broad strokes, really, how he was writing it, and just kind of disjointed. Yeah. I did have one other note. I missed this earlier with the dates of filming being the October 6th, 9th, and 10th of 1961. The rehearsals for this episode were conducted on October 5th, just some dates of note, involving the 5 major characters, but not Delavanti, who was playing the butler. The entire episode was filmed on stage 19, including the junk shop, Fortune's New York apartment, and the white walls surrounding the room where most of the story takes place were the same featured in the mirror. So I think I mentioned that earlier, that I thought it was. So it was the same kind of set, and it was all shot apparently on one stage. So that's pretty much it. Jimbo, you want to shut us down?
Yeah, if you like what you heard, we are the Tragedy of Cinema podcast. You can find us pretty much every week releasing an episode with Kyle and I doing the main feed, and then Eric every once in a while hopping in with the Twilight Zone series, as well as the I Can't Believe That Was a Movie series with my dad, Art Toast. If you like a little fun and some B movies, definitely hear some of Art Toast greatest hits from his childhood, where he went trick-or-treating at a bar for the drunk people drunk people would throw out change to him. So he said he just kept walking by. So, but with that being said, I think this episode is coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
Mr. Fitzgerald Fortune, a man who went searching for concealed persons and found himself in the Twilight Zone.